Bow our heads. As we gather here in the harbor of your safety, we thank you for your fellowship and family. We thank you for allowing us all to come together to honor our loved one. We pray for our servicemen and women around the world who protect our borders, deliver them from the injury, allow them the opportunity to return to their families back home. To our fellow Americans who have been evacuated or misplaced due to the recent fires, please provide them a safe haven and keep them from harm. To my brothers and sisters, firefighters, first responders, police officers, forestry crews that are fighting those fires, let them use their professional experience, fearlessness, and valor combating these extremely dangerous conditions. To those of you whom traveled away from your families to be with us this week, provide them for comfort as we ask for the safety of their family back home. To our softball family members who couldn't make the trip, let them feel working through us, through you. To all suffering illness, give them strength for healing and will to battle. To all that we lost this past year, may they have found the peace and let the legacies left behind be carried on by all of us this week. Finally, to all of us here tonight, may we find peace, hold one another, share laughs, hugs, and tears. Allow us to accept your plan for CD. Provide comfort to our family and share our love for their daughter, our sister, friend, and teammate. We ask that you strengthen us, restore us, inspire us with your love. In your Lord, amen. Before I hand the mic back over, Christan Dowling was the ultimate positive influence for so many. She was our angel. She would encourage you and influence you positively in all aspects of your life. Without attaching any strings of her generosity, she would check on you, see how you're doing oh so often, without demanding anything in return or asking for favors from any of us. She clearly cared for our well-being. She came into our lives to support us in achieving success in our endeavors. You would never hear her speak ill will against you, publicly or privately. She would respect your values and dignity. In her presence, you feel her acceptance, respect, and warmth. She could be counted upon at all times, good as well as bad, and would never turn her back on you. She was the ideal friend to so many of us, but very few of us actually got the chance to meet or appreciate in our lifetime someone like her. She had a beautiful soul. We are blessed with the presence of greatness in so many ways. I love her and I miss her so much. I said this one before in Arizona. She had a hell of a run. He needed her more than all of us. Yes, I am being selfish, asking for one more call, one more text, one more hug, one more I love you. Yes, it isn't fair. It's not how it's supposed to be. The circle of life screwed this one up. And I just want the nightmare to end. Let me hear a heavy Chevy, no fucks given. Come get you a hug. Hey, buddy. Okay. I would even settle for an I love you during one of her hugs. She was our sister. We all have so many different memories from all over the world, and we have been given this evening to share. Let us enjoy your evening. We will see you again one day at the ballpark in the sky. You're the GOAT, not only as a ball player, but a friend, sister, and daughter. Rest in love, sis.
So our next speaker kind of got chosen because if you guys know CD, she has 4 kind of very distinct families. She has her family sitting here in the front row that meant everything in the world to her. She had the Helmers, who Maddie, Brett Jr., Brett, and Jen were the extension family in New York. The reason she didn't want to leave there when we would all try to drag her away is she didn't want to be away from them. The other piece of it was her Northwest family, why her family chose to be here. With so many people around, she spent a lot of years living up here and working up here and enjoyed it. So, and then obviously Derby. So there's a lot of longer standing people to speak on behalf or read a poem other than Bethany. But I can tell you this, she's gonna find this funny because she thinks Bethany talks funny. So she's from Kentucky and you can't understand a damn word she says. So I personally thought CD would say, screw it, put the kid that no one can hear up there to read a poem that no one's gonna follow along with anyway. So here you go, kiddo.
So I originally actually intended to write a poem, but as I sat down to write multiple times, I found myself writing a book. How does one condense the life, the impact, the memories of someone who lives so large? So instead of an original, I'll be reading Game Called by Grant Lynn Rice. Across the field of play, the dusk has come, the hour is late. The fight is done and lost or won. The player flies out through the gate. The tumult dies, the cheer is hushed, the stands are bare, the park is still. But through the night there shines the light home beyond the silent hill. Where in the golden light the bugle rolled the reveal. The shadows creep where night falls deep, and taps has called the end of play. The game is done, the score is in, the final cheer and jeer have passed. But in the night, beyond the fight, the player finds her rest at last. Upon the field of life, the darkness gathers far and wide. The dream is done, the score is spun, that stands forever in the guide. Nor victory, nor yet defeat is chalked against the player's name. But down the roll, the final scroll shows only how she played the game.
Behind that poem, for those that know me really well, those of you who don't might find this weird, but I have an issue with reading a lot. And I have an issue with reading abstract, strange things, and sometimes it's abstract, strange poetry. So I was reading that in my hotel room in Europe when I was with CD. Now, they forgot to book CD a room in Europe, so I said, C's just one night, stay with me. We're doing a tour city to city to city. So the gentleman checking us in said, oh, it's a double. It'll be fine. You guys will be great. I said, okay. Seats, just don't snore or let me get to sleep first, baby girl, because I got to get up in the morning. So we walk in the room, and there's only one bed. And I don't know if any of you have ever noticed, but I do a pretty good job of filling up a bed by myself. And I looked at Seed and I said, honey, I love you, but this is not happening. So I go back downstairs and I said, sir, there's only one bed. He goes, no, that's a double. I said, well, the room's like this big, sir. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but there's one bed. Come on up, I'll show you. So he comes back upstairs and walks in and he says, yeah, there it is. And I go, what? It's a bed, dude. And he pulls out a trundle from underneath. It's a honest to God story. And it's a trundle about this wide. I look at Seeds and I said, do not cuddle with me. I'll do it one night. No one ever finds out about this. So it was a little bit kind of John Candy, where's your hand between two pillows night went on that night as CD and I filled up what they thought was a big bed with a trundle. It's a twin, folks. So that was our first night in London, and then after that I called every hotel and said, hey, I don't know what you all call a double, but just book me my own room. And she found that laying there, and so she was reading it, and she's like, why would you read this? And I said, I had a 15-hour flight. What else was I going to read? So our next speaker begrudgingly is about to do this. He's actually a great orator, and I spent a lot of time with him, but he wasn't real happy about doing this for a lot of reasons. But it's one of CD's favorite teammates and one of her joys in the last couple of years. Because of schedules, we're not always able to mesh up and play co-ed. And those of you who really know me, know us, we have always said there's only one tournament that matters, and it's co-ed. And it started that way because it doesn't matter about back contracts and it doesn't matter about all the other stuff. You could pick the people you wanted to hang out with for a weekend and go have a blast. And there's a list of folks that she always wanted us to have on our team. And it was always the guys she was after, because we had Derby and she wanted to pull from Derby, which always caused grief because you could only take 6, and she'd put me in a weird spot about which 6, and so all of those type of things. But on the guys she went through, and there were some folks, and a lot of them were sitting in the back row back there that she got to do this with for the home run derby, because they were all people that meant a lot to her. Some she played with, some she admired, but Brett will tell you this, she never wanted to stop talking about softball, and she wanted to talk about swings, and she would analyze player swings and talk about swings, and why is GH swing so beautiful from the left side? Why don't righties look like that? It's not fair. Those types of things, you know. Nick Santana, you know, same thing. She just loved him. He's a perfect co-ed, doesn't need to hit home runs. Why would we have anyone but Santana? Sometimes you're stupid when you look at the roster. These are the kind of texts I would get at 3 in the morning. So one of them was Wags. She always wanted to play with Wags. And then we played with Wags, and she said, it wasn't the greatest idea we ever had, sorry. But he was there, he tried his best. He's just a little long in the tooth now. But Brian since moved on to be the COO of USSSA, and so he, kind of begrudgingly, but he wanted to share some thoughts on what CD meant to U-Trip, to the sport, and to the space. He was also her longtime tenured Easton contract person who did photo shoots and traveled all over together. So unless he snuck out on me, why am I not seeing Wags? Oh, hiding, okay. I figured you were on a call.
Probably the toughest part after group called me was the reality of not getting to play co-ed with CD. Given it a lot of thought and many talks with CD, sometimes with Crown Royal or Bourbon. The one that sticks out to me the most, and I know you're going to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe it was the 2013 Major World Series Home Run Derby. CD saw an opportunity. The definition, she defined when opportunity knocks. The opportunity for CD was not to just hit home runs. She wanted to prove that we, the women of the game of softball, could do it too. CD's goal wasn't to hit one home run in a stadium. Although after the first 5 swings, it probably crossed her mind. Disney Stadium's not the most friendly to righties. She wanted to prove to U-Trip and the softball community that the women of slow pitch, they deserved a showcase. CD was impressive. After she started rattling off the home runs, after those first 5 swings, she rattled some home runs. The crowd got into it, and she fed off the energy. And then she gave it back to get the energy back to the crowd with the fist pumps. And I believe some kisses were blown. Probably the only thing more impressive, and most of y'all know Andy Purcell. He's pitching a little competitive. I was more impressed that Andy didn't yell at her to get back in the box and start pump faking and throwing knuckleballs. But it kind of set a tone and opened some folks' eyes, even at U-Trip, to the women's program. That, all right, CD's not kidding. She's not just nagging. CD was not scared to fight for the women's conference. I'm certain Stroh and Clay Dickey are nodding their heads in agreement. We all listened to it and took it to heart. CD went to bat for the women's program every chance she got. And she didn't stop once the women's conference came to fruition. She fought for the best umpires, the live stream, the best venues. And Yestro, she wants the scores read after the inning, just like the men's game. The beauty of it all, no one at U-Trip heard nagging, because everyone knew it was straight from her heart. CD's love and passion for the game of softball, it's not easily matched. It's the reason you rarely see CD at the park without her brothers, Elmer and Coop. To them, it wasn't about Combat or Easton. They knew very well she would push the brand like they wanted, but she would also push them to always give more back to the game of softball. That, to me, defined CD. Not about her, not even about her teammates. At the end of the day, it was the game of slow pitch softball. I want to thank you all for coming tonight and celebrating CD, the life and the softball player that she was, but also what she has brought to the game, and especially the women's program. Thank you all.
Never tell how some things actually happen behind the scenes. And then Stroh told me after CD's passing to go ahead and tell the story, and Don Dianatis Jr. said, tell it. So the night that she hit in that home run derby, we had met with USSSA that morning, and there's a couple people here tonight that were in that meeting, to ask to bring the Women's Major World Series back. And thought we did a great job, made a presentation, talked about it, because people think it's something new. It used to exist, and it went away as the women's program shrunk down. So for whatever reason, people always say, Coop, go speak and do this. And so we put a package together, and we went and spoke, and we did it, and I'm like, we're home free. And a few hours later, we got told, hey, it's just not the right time. It's not going to get off the ground. We don't want it to embarrass us. We won't have 16 teams. You have to understand that. It's a good idea. Let's keep trying to grow. It'll happen in a couple of years. And when you're in the positions that I've been in, sometimes you just have to take the political, say, hey, thanks for listening, and it's great, and it's cool, and I appreciate it. You know, we're not going to let this go. We'll be back next year to talk about it. Great, no problem. We can bring it up at the convention. Okay, great. CD goes on and puts that show on that night, and I couldn't help myself. I literally went straight up the elevator, walked into the boardroom. They were all sitting there finishing up in a boardroom. And to the children, I apologized. I said, yeah, it wouldn't be fucking great to see that every night, would it? And Senior turns and looks at me and says, Women's Major World Series is back. Anyone have an issue? Not a single voice was said. And that's how it came back. And if she doesn't put herself out that night, she doesn't put on that show that night, and Brett or Yatesy or Connie or any of those guys sitting back there, ask them how many really good players we've seen put in those situations in major league ballparks and long haul bombers, Disney World Series, Smoky Mountain Classic, shit down their leg when it came time to take that swing and do it. And she went out there with the whole world on her and a whole bunch of people saying, why is she out here? And did that. So when people want to talk about how things get there, remember this when we're all gone and this conference is what it is now and it's doubled in size every year. None of this happens without her. And that's just an absolute fact. That leads me to an unenviable job of Mandy Holman. So we went through a list of the girls because Derby wanted to have some things to say. And I started with a couple that we kind of call, we have an OG Derby list, and some of them are here. And if you were here this weekend, we should have a little shout out to OG Derby, who rolled up these young girls like it was free, tucked them away in the tournament. A bunch of 55 and 60-year-old women hadn't played in 2, 4, 6, 8 years. Rolled them up like it was absolutely free. Hey, facts are facts. Look at the scoreboard. So Mandy kind of pseudo got volunteered after a few of the OGs said, no, don't put me out there. So Mandy is, I don't know what she's going to say, what she says stuff worse than I say. So she's here to speak on behalf of Derby girls, new, OGs, future, the whole 9 yards.
Over/under on how many times I would drop the F-bomb. I was like, no, I'm gonna write it. I just will read it and keep it simple. I won't do it, I promise. So I'll be speaking on behalf of the Derby Girls team. We want to start by thanking everyone for all the love and support that the softball community and the world has shown to us. Words can't express what it's truly meant during this time because we've been lost. We truly have been lost. Anytime someone in the softball world brings up Derby Girls or the women's conference, you can't help but think of CD. She was a leader, the home run queen, the heart, the glue, the face of the women's game, and best of all, our bus driver. She's the reason that so many of us are part of this Derby Girls, myself included. She has a presence where if you knew her, the hugs were the best, and so was the advice. And if you didn't, you'd stop and say, hey, there goes that girl, CD. And she would welcome you over and strike up a conversation. You couldn't go to the ballpark without hearing her voice or even seeing that smile. Seeds earned the respect of both men and women in the game. She demanded it. As a competitor, she was one of your worst fears because you knew anything that touched her bat was either gas. It was a line drive or over the gate, it didn't matter. But as a teammate, she was your biggest support, biggest motivator, and biggest challenger. She led by example. Just this year, after our first tournament in Vegas, we didn't know it would be our last. We wish we could take it back. She flew a red-eye home and was in the gym the same day. No time to rush, she would say. The competition doesn't take a day off. She forced you to push your game for the better, and she knew exactly what each of us needed to hear. Even with that, she still found time to joke with the opposing batters and throw out many of her iconic sayings. Not only did she enjoy the game, but she also enjoyed the people in it. Lastly, one of the many things CD was all about was family. Her family. Her mom, dad, and brother, the softball world, and especially Derby. The past couple months, weeks, and days, it has been reconfirmed by all of us that family is not defined by blood. We in Derby, both old and new, have formed that bond that can never be broken. Family's tough, unconditional, and full of love. We fight, we cry, we laugh, we hold each other accountable, we get in each other's asses, we talk shit, and last but not least, we keep our circle tight. These are all things CD worked to instill in us, family first. If you didn't stand behind that, you didn't fit in our circle. To CD's family, Pat, Susan, and PJ, we love you. We thank you for all the years of love and the support you've shown us, from the endless hugs and the giant smiles to all the travel and cheering in the stands. You will forever be our family. To all the Derby Girls, OG and new, never forget. Pick a fight, hugs are free, all go, no quit. Do you, sis, ride or die. Congrats on your recent success. Hustle's free, ain't shit won on a Saturday. Thanks.
I'm gonna disagree with what she said a little bit. So there's only one time. So CD's parents are Derby parents. There are Derby parents. We have a Derby uncle. That's Cammie's crazy uncle that follows us around. He's probably here. He's crazy Uncle Cammie. We have Tara's dad, who's just Tara's dad, and we never really know exactly what Tara's dad's gonna do, but we love him and embrace Tara's dad. But we have one set of Derby parents, and it's Pat and Sue, and occasionally we got to see Derby brother, but he a little flighty. He kind of came and went over the years sometimes. But her mom and I were talking after it, and she said something that Mandy said that bothers me a little bit because it's just not true. She said Vegas was, I had sent her a picture, and Mom said, that's her last tournament. And Mandy said the same thing, and it's just not true. Because if CD played with you, if you were a Derby girl, if you were with her in co-ed, if you're in this conference, until all of us are dead and gone, CD is with you every second. It's absolutely impossible for that not to be true. Vegas was not her last tournament with us. if there's a Derby Girl team in the future and there's one player left that she touched, she'll still be in that dugout with us. And I think a lot of those guys in the back that are the best male players in the world feel the same way about her. So I never disagree with you, Derby Mom, but I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one. That wasn't her last tournament. It's just she's taken a different role with a bunch of us in tournaments going forward. So the next speaker could be interesting. I love her. It's my daughter, and I think Aubrey's going to join her. So that you guys know the impact that CD had on softball across the spectrum. Obviously, Wags is here representing USSSA. I think most of you know the USA women's team is in Japan, finishing up the Olympics. They wanted, Craig and Ridgecrest wanted to be here. I know they're watching live stream. It took Rich everything he could to write this. He said, I didn't know how to write this. It's one of the toughest things I ever wrote. He goes, I think it would have been easier to be here to speak, and they would have been here if it wasn't for the Olympics. They're in Japan, so we gave them an out. I think maybe some of you actually even saw the social media post this morning. The entire team did 2 helmets for CD, and they were expedited here for her newly formed charity, because she's impacted and knows so many of those girls. Matt got in the car with me today, and I was on the phone with Lisa Fernandez, and she wanted to share some thoughts, what CD, because she got to actually play co-ed, because when you invite people to the most important tournament, CD would say you have to invite them to co-ed. So we actually got Lisa years ago to come out and play co-ed, and she couldn't hit slow pitch, and pissed her off. She goes, how the hell can I not hit this? This is embarrassing. I'm a gold medalist. And CD would go, not here, sis. So, Lisa, it took the first time we'd actually really talked about it, and she's like, it's taken me a while to talk, and Matt kind of heard the end of the conversation. But I tell you that because that's the impact. You think about a slow pitch player that the national team wanted to make sure that they were recognized. Or USA, the Crest family, Chris Sebring, the rest of the board over there have reached out to all of us, and they're looking to, they'll be doing some things at Border Battle this year, as well as U-Trip will be at the Women's Major World Series. But so on behalf of Craig Kress, the CEO of USA Softball, and Rich Kress, the Director of Players at USA Softball, Tammy Higginbotham Blair is going to read some notes from them. I'm sure add something. I think Aubrey's coming for a little moral support to help her get through it. I won't say how old you are.
So Aubrey's here for moral support, as well as in case I can't see my phone. So really honored to be able to represent Rich and Craig Kress and USA Softball and read his note to all of you. CD, to start, thank you all for being here and celebrating this amazing person who had such an impact on the lives of so many. I'm extremely disappointed that I was unable to make it in person, but I appreciate Tammy reading these words in my place. For her sake, I'll keep this short, but I just want to tell some stories that I'll never forget. The first time I ever met CD was in Pullman, Washington. I was straight out of college and thought I could hit a softball a little bit. Many of us have felt that way standing next to CD. After a couple of swings, I found out I was very wrong. A few swings after, she about blew Coop's foot off at the ankle. I still give him a hard time for moving so slow. The next was in Oklahoma City at the Women's Open National Championship. I'm personally not fond of this story because he talks about us losing. Derby had just lost in the championship game, and I'm handing out awards. CD's name is called to receive her runner-up plaque, and she proceeds to thank me for the firewood. At that time, I was a little taken back at the comment, but once I got to know her more, it made complete sense. It's part of what made her so special. The ultimate competitor, never satisfied with anything but winning. The things legends are made of. The hugs. First women's border battle, she hits a home run to start things off. The excitement in that moment in the dugout and receiving the patented CD hug. There were many before and many after, but that one stands out. It was a huge step forward for women's slow pitch. Lastly, Robert Baden-Powell said, "Leave this world in a better place than you found it. And CD did that in life and in the game of slow pitch. She's a true ambassador of the game, and the relationships were carried far past the foul lines. I'm fortunate to have known her, and even more blessed to call her a friend. On behalf of myself, USA Softball, we love you. We miss you. And thank you for being you. Your friendship and everything you've done to promote the grow the game of slow pitch will never be forgotten. Fly high 19. So, a little quick story, and I'm sure we all have so many, and that's what this night is about, is to embrace her and remember her and tell stories and hug. Several years into playing with CD, because I'm an OG, we get these new uniforms that come to the house. Coop's pulling them out of the box, he hands them to me, and I never called her CD. I always called her Kristen, or I called her Sis, because CD to me was little CD, who actually started the Derby Girls and who brought Kristen into my life. So I always called her Sis. So these uniforms show up, and Sis is all over the uniforms. And I never told anybody this story until later, and I thought, why does she get her name on her uniforms? And I was a little bitter. And not because I thought my name needed to go on a uniform, I just thought, I mean, we're the Derby Girls, we're a whole team, and she is literally the only one that gets her names on the uniform. Whatever. Half the season goes by, her and I are sitting in a tournament, drinking a beer in between games, and another team walks by, and they also have Sis on their uniforms. And I go, okay, seriously, why are you getting your name on all of these uniforms? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, Sis. She goes, oh God, you're so pretty. It's Smash It Sports. But I never doubted it for a second. I know that story probably makes me sound stupid, but more than anything, she should have had her name on a uniform. That's who she was. That's who she was to us. From all my years of playing with CD, from the start of Derby Girls, and through to you boys that are still playing the game that she loved to spend time with, the one thing that I know that she would say to you is don't forget to enjoy the game, because it's still a game. And I know you guys all treat it like it's a job and you do it, but remember to enjoy the game. To Pat, Sue, and PJ, she might not physically be here, but you are our family the same way that she was our family. And when we're playing, we still expect to see you there. For however long this team continues, you are always part of the Derby family. To my Derby girls, now, and the ones that ever decide to come along, she never, ever wants any one of you to be the next Christan Dowling. She wants you to be the best version of yourself. So when she says, do you, carry her in your heart, take her up to the bat, say fuck everybody, and do you.
Yes, when you talk about do you, see, I was talking to Mama Cheryl earlier about this. There's an interesting side of CD as a competitor. And we had some interesting conversations, especially the last couple of years, because those of you who don't know, we are really good at being undefeated at the Major World Series on Sunday. And we're really good at playing 2 games, and we're really good at losing 2 games on Sunday. In fact, we have it down to a science. If you'd like to read about it, I can send you some notes on how to do it. Wouldn't recommend it, but I can tell you how to do it. So Seeds and I have had long conversations about that, and you would think someone like her, the win would be the only end-all, be-all. But she genuinely took more pride in more teams being in the conference, in the women's game growing, and all of that than she did in the wins and losses. And I mean this with no disrespect to any of the other players here, and the greatest male players of all time are here. Brett Helmer, in my opinion, is the greatest male player of all time, an ambassador. They don't feel that way. If Rosmondo could go 90, they would do it. Rainier, AP could get on a team and go 90-0, you guys would buy into it tomorrow and it would be everything you wanted. She looked at that as a way of, will we grow the women's game? Man, 3 or 4 years ago we talked about, should we add that player? Should we think about that player? I don't know. We need those 3 other teams, the 3 other people. And I tell you that because it goes to the depths of who I think she was as a person. Her outwardly facing was as uberly competitive, and I think even with her teammates, she would say one thing and then call me and say, I didn't really mean that. We can't do that because we got to grow the women's game, right? So we had to have off-the-record conversations and act like we know everything here, but she genuinely cared. And I think that's a unique quality in a space, in a sport, that not everyone genuinely cares. There's a few of them. I'll have a list when I retire. A little caveat to what may or may not happen a little bit. As you guys can see, the good news about living up here is we play league until 10 o'clock at night with no lights. The bad news up here is you can play league until 10 o'clock with no lights, and it sucks for video screens. So there was a few videos tonight. We'll probably find a way to play all of them later over the weekend, or maybe even set up over here during the home run derby, as long as JT doesn't snap hook one right through the screen. But I just asked those guys, there's a video there that I wish you could see, and maybe we can a little bit of it, but it's this interview that CD did that most of us didn't know existed or happened a few years ago when we were at the PIF. CD and I, and a few of us here, have had the privilege, I sat down and made a list. So CD and I went to 41 states together for softball, all but one, Providence in Canada, and through Europe. So we've been blessed by the game. It's taken me to places I never got to go, other than sharing a bed one night in London. I had wonderful adventures with her. And so we had done these videos and they kind of got lost. And so the gentleman reached out, seeing what had happened, and got us this video. So I've asked him, no matter what, when we're done tonight, to play that. So we just got to hear CD's voice. Just it wouldn't be right. But we'll have it tonight later, or we'll have it over the weekend as well. So just a little caveat about our technology. So close to our last person is Matt Arndt, who is the Easton, Mike, and Worth Walling COO. So I think that kind of tells you the gravity of what CD means when Matt says, I'm getting on a plane, I'm going to be there. I met her X amount of times, and such an impact she had. So for him to get on a plane and do that, if you're in our company or our circle, you're like, oh, okay. But it says that when you look around the other manufacturers that are here tonight, Boden and Wilson, DeMarini, and Corny, and Proton, I saw walking around, and if I miss anyone, it's not intentional, don't send me an email. But it tells you the level and the folks that have reached out to support her, support the program, and do all of those things in that process of all the, didn't matter. It wasn't about a manufacturer or 2 manufacturers, it was about the game. So Matt's gonna come up and say some words about our longest contracted female player. I believe that's right, Brett? Our longest contracted female player. And then also have a presentation to jumpstart some things that a lot of you guys are participating in, gals are participating in afterwards, to PJ Seed's brother and to Holly Kennison. So Matt Arndt.
Thank you, Coop. I'll start by saying it's a tremendous honor to be here tonight. I only met CD a dozen times, maybe. On the field, I don't think you guys need to hear anything from me. Hall of Famer, teammate, home run hitter, one of a kind. Off the field is where I knew her better, and she was special. I only met her, I told you, about a dozen times. And the very first time, I believe, was at a U-Trip convention where she was going to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And there is a trade show that happens at this convention that goes into the afternoon, even to the early evening. I think until about 6 o'clock. I think the Hall of Fame induction was 7. CD sets up the trade show with us, does this whole trade show at the booth with us, And she's sitting there taking it down with us afterwards. I said, Kristen, don't you have to go? And she was dreading it. She was excited for the evening, but she finally said, and I'll never forget this, she goes, I just hate that I gotta wear the outfit that I gotta wear, and I don't want to go back up to my room and put it on. So the shortest amount of time that I can wear that thing will be the best. So I'm gonna hang out with you until I gotta go up to my room. And finally somebody convinced her to go up there, and that worked out. But that to me, for the first time, I said, this girl's special. And you know, the other thing I know, just from an Eastern perspective, she would drop anything. If there was something on the East Coast that needed coverage, we could call her on a Friday. She'd get in a car, drive 3 hours, and spend the weekend doing a grassroots event. She just would. And she'd do it because she wanted to, because she loved the sport. And thinking about that, you've got a Hall of Famer, the GOAT, on the field. And to have her of that characteristic and just willingness to help a brand in the sport of softball off the field, that combination is rare. And so, from Easton, I'm proud to say thank you for the time, and truly a one-of-a-kind person. So I will stop there and ask Coop to come help me out.
These will be here Friday for the family and some other people, but we actually had a bat in the works for CD and Bubba Baltzell, and obviously this occurred, and so we flipped it into a CD tribute bat. It's a really cool looking bat, and I hope it's going to be here, but it's very, very limited production of it. A bunch of retailers, a handful of retailers I should say, took them. We wanted to spread them around, brought a bunch in for the family, U-Trip, a bunch of key people. Matt and our team said, you know, we don't want to make anything off this. What do we do with it? We want to do this. We feel we owe it to CD. And then the foundation was started, which Hank's Heroes was already up and running, and doing some cool work for a young charity. And Holly, of course, being an OG CD or an OG Derby, and CD's littlest sister, wanted to start a foundation, and a scholarship foundation to support young athletes. And Holly Epson manages the cash flow at the University of Washington, which I think is why we don't get the right amount of players we used to, because before we just paid for all of us. But since she's been there, we've kind of sucked. So that's a little issue that Holly and I have together. So she was able to tie into that, and we've got about, I think, 50 universities or so now that will recognize this scholarship at different levels. So Easton wanted to jumpstart that, Matt wanted to jumpstart that, and then so many of you here are contributing to it to a level we never thought we would see in a first-year charity like this. And we'll talk about them over the weekend, some of the folks and what they've done. But it's been amazing. So to present the first check to the CD Scholarship Fund, Matt Arndt's going to present a $10,000 check to Holly Kendison and PJ to jumpstart the program. It's okay. Holly was just wanted to speak, and then she said, if you get me near a microphone, I'll get in my car and I'll drive away. So she was uber tough, had some stuff planned out, it was solid. And then she said, could I video it and hide behind the bushes while you guys showed the video? And we're like, well, no. And so this is as close as we're gonna get. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, I'm part of Rawlings and everyone. And like I said, thanks guys. Over the weekend, we'll talk more about the amazing outreach from all of the manufacturers and non-manufacturers, Mr. Matusik and the folks like that she impacted, and so many of these people I found out that had conversations with CD. So I'm going to tell you guys one last quick story that kind of sums up, I think, some things that we found out that maybe we didn't all know about CD until her passing, unfortunately. I get an email with a link to a South African newspaper, which I forward on to the family. I think this is pretty neat. There's a whole write-up about seeds in a South African newspaper. weird, random kind of thing. Like a week goes by, I get 2 phone calls on my phone that pop up, South Africa. I figured it was like a medical distributor that calls from other countries sometimes to help some of the guys out. So I finally answer it like the third time, and it's this guy on the phone, and he says, "You don't know me, blah, 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 blah. I'm fat." Okay? You're from South Africa and we got something in common. This is cool. What can I do for you? And he goes, "Every year for the last 7 years, CD has sent me your jerseys at the end of the year. No one knows about softball. I follow it on live stream. There's not a lot of softball down here. I can't find a sub-dyed jersey in 4X anywhere in this country. So I met her when you guys were in Europe. She stayed in contact with me for 11 years, and every year has sent me some jerseys." And I'm like, who the hell does that? You know, so to me, it was just an amazing little microcosm of who CD was. And I know her parents can tell you this, and a bunch of the Derbs can, of the people that we found. I don't know how she had enough time in the day to legitimately talk to, text, or do all this stuff that she did, because people came out of the woodwork that she had talked to a day before, 2 weeks before, who she had stayed in contact with, that she met one time in a Hawaii tournament or a Mexico tournament or in Europe. It's an amazing piece of what she did, and really a tribute to who she was, not as a softball player, but really a tribute to who she was as a person. And she was as good a person as we'll ever meet. So we're gonna try to run this video a little bit. We're clearly not gonna see it, but I want you guys to be able to hear from my sister. The other thing I want to make sure that we understand and recognize through this weekend is PJ, Mom, and Dad are going to be here all weekend long. This isn't a 1 hour deal. This is not a 9-day deal as we talked about. This is a forever deal. She's the unicorn. She's going to be with us. But they're here. They would love to hear CD stories and talk and cry. They're huggers. So if you don't like to be hugged, wander away. Which is fine, because CD was a hugger, so we all know where she got it from. So mom clearly passed on the hug gene to Seeds. There's also some jerseys over here by Adam and the group to sign. There's a memory book over there that has some phenomenal photos that Shannon put together. That's crazy, some stuff I'd never seen before. We'd love to have you sign it. There'll be a lot of other activities that go on over the weekend. There's going to be a lot of other activities that we do to help the newly formed scholarship program. The one thing I'm going to ask you guys all for personally, though, is she's a once-in-a-lifetime person. Don't make this a once-in-a-lifetime event. Understand what she meant to our community. Understand that we'll never have another one. And I hope that all of you understand that, and I hope for the fact that we are doing the same thing next year, telling stories, and the stories will get better as they always do. Because in 3 years, it'll be me and Brett and CD, we're all together in that room. You know how these stories are going to get better and grow. What we can't do is let this be a 1-year deal. It would be a disservice to her as a person. It'd be a disservice to what we've all found as a family being together. It would be a disservice to our Derby parents if we let that happen. And I know you guys won't, but it's going to take more than Holly, it's going to take more than Shannon, it's going to take more than me, it's going to take more than Brett to keep this going. So I'm going to ask you guys to put this in your heart, and we're going to keep this going year round, and we're going to see how far we can grow this thing. We're going to see how many girls we can put through college. I'm really excited to be there when one of these girls graduates college, and one of us, a Derby or a co-ed teammate, Brett, Maddie, someone can be there to tell them about where that scholarship money came from, why that scholarship money existed. I don't need the money. Her family doesn't need the money. This isn't about anything other than what she would want. CD lived a very, very basic life. And I think CD did that because she chose to live a very, very basic life, because this was her family, this was her love. And I think if all of us could find that a little bit in their heart, where you can embrace something and say, I love something so much, I don't care what everyone else says. I don't care my truck has 300,000 miles on it. I care about, I want to be at the ball field. I care about what I want to do. I want to impact people. I have found something I want to grow. Most of us don't have that, and it's a shame. And so what I would say is, if you don't have that, here's an opportunity to connect and stay connected with somebody that had that, and take that and run with it. Because I'm telling you guys, you won't find a better person. I know all of you know that, sitting on this field on a Wednesday night where you could be somewhere else. She's literally a once and only. I'll always love her. I'll always have her with me. Till the last game I coach, play, or a part of, she is there. So again, sorry, Mom, she's never leaving me. So we're gonna hear a little something from Seeds. I apologize, you're not. Oh, she's sneaking in. That's Holly. She's sneaking in. Who knows? I gotta be honest. I keep hoping to look over my shoulder and she's gonna walk in and say, "Hey, I got you," and I'm hitting lead off today, big man. So I'm not gonna break my heart if that happens. So we'll go ahead and roll this out. Again, Mom, PJ, and Dad will be here all night. If you need someone to step in and hit for you, PJ's never scared to swing. So thank you guys all so very much for coming tonight. I swear to God, I wish we weren't here. Not for this reason, but now that we are, we're going to make the absolute best of it and embrace the holy shit out of it. Thank you guys all very much.